So, this is the geezer, and I'm going to answer the question, where do marine biologists work? So, you may be one of those fortunate people as a marine biologist that gets to go into the field and spends a lot of time in the field. A lot of what we learn comes from field studies, and as a consequence, we have to spend time in the field, and that's just I gotta tell you, that's just the icing on the cake. It's the funnest part. You go out in the field, you plan your studies. Sometimes you're stuck there for days or weeks trying to gather the information that you need to gather. Sometimes it involves ocean voyage trips. Other times it's up in the mountains or doing other kinds of things. So as a biologist, you end up working around in a lot of different conditions. Sometimes the weather is not hospitable, and you end up getting cold and wet and dirty. Maybe that's great. Some people it wears on them a little bit, but the main thing is that you do get in the field from time to time and take full advantage of those opportunities. A lot of times with younger biologists, they end up sort of being pack horses for the more experienced biologists, but they get to learn in sort of a mentorship environment where you get to learn from the pros, the people who've been around a while. And it is that experience that makes your career much more valuable and also much more diverse. You get to do different things as you acquire these different skill sets. Now, I personally was taken under wing by a famous professor when I was going to college, who we connected, and he showed me things that he didn't show other students. Just took me into places and exposed me to the kinds of thought processes that he had, the programmatic perspective. He introduced me to people who were influential in his business realm and his understanding. So I was very grateful for those opportunities and take full advantage of those, not in the sense of manipulating the system, but rather to see them for what they are. They're not just a passing thing, but these are a unique opportunity to learn something, to interact with somebody who can make a difference in the world, and you can become part of that. So that's part of that whole question about where we work. So sometimes we're working in laboratories, and sometimes we're working a lot of time behind the desk in the office, and you can be writing proposals, you can be analyzing data, you can be writing reports, editing reports, preparing presentations for public dialogue, or to impart your information in a public setting. A lot of our time is actually spent in the office. Sometimes we're developing studies to go forward, or analyzing other people's work, or helping our colleagues to get to where they want to be. So a lot of time is spent in the office. Some time is spent in the field. Typically, I would probably think maybe in a broad sense of the word, I'm paying maybe 10 to 25% is in the field, and the rest of the time is in the office preparing for those field conditions. Now, there are people who are hired specifically to be field technicians. That is kind of the starting rung. So we'll bring in technicians that are young biologists that spend that first part of their career working every day in the field, or working every day in an environment where they're hands-on and doing more physical things than study analyses and data crunching. So, but part of the joy for me as a biologist was taking all this stuff that I had learned from my field exposure and synthesizing it into a meaningful story for what was happening and how I could make changes. And so that was an important part. So where does a biologist work? Sometimes in the field, sometimes up in the mountains, sometimes on rivers, sometimes out in the bay or out in the ocean, but a lot of the time is spent in the office doing analyses, writing. One thing I should say is, if you're going to be a biologist, please strive to be a good writer. I just can't tell you how hard it is for a biologist who cannot communicate. It's just so important to be able to write well and to convey your thoughts in a way that people can understand, because there's so much miscommunication, and the data are so important that you want to make sure that you you convey that information clearly. So become a good writer as well. So thanks a lot. Yeah, that's all for now. Geezer out.